States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Sharp,
Here.
Kurtz,
Here.
O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next, I will need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: the minutes of the June 22nd, 2020 regular meeting, budgeted and monthly transfers for the month of June and fiscal year, bank reconciliation for the month of May, Del Rio Class C liquor license and Sunday sales for June 15th, 2020 through June 14th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. We are under public comment. Do you have anything? Okay. Dustin, would you please come forward and introduce our new officer?
I'd like to bring Clint Bentley up to you guys to introduce him as a new officer. He's taking the place of 105, which was Bergman when last time he worked here. Normally, we swear him in at this time, but he worked in Fairbank as the police chief there, and the council meetings there were the same time ours were, so he had to be at theirs and couldn't be here to be sworn in. So he did get sworn in before he started working. He started with us last month, at the end of the month. He spent 2.5 years as the police chief in Fairbank before he took on a position with us. I'm happy to bring him on. He graduated from Hawkeye Community College, went through the academy there 2.5 years ago. Fairbank was his first police job. Now he's here, so he's learning a lot more with us. So, do you have any questions or anything?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
Glad to be here.
It's good to have you.
He hasn't been here very long, but he's taken on quite a bit. It's been a couple weeks on first shift. Now actually tomorrow will be his first day on second shift to see where he goes with Bose for about a month, and then he'll go rotate to swing shift or third shift, and then we'll see where he ends up.
Very good. Welcome aboard.
All right.
Glad
Good to have you.
Thank you. Did you have anybody on radio or telephone? Nope. Okay. Next, I will ask for a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second to approve claims. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is a request for bow hunting.
This is the same request that we've had the last, I believe, 3 years now. Kent and Daniel Young would like to bow hunt on their property along Malone Creek.
How many deer did you get last year, Ken?
I didn't hunt last year because I had foot surgery, and Daniel didn't because of time frames. He just didn't get a lot of time to hunt, so we weren't real successful last year back there.
It shows.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Last 3 weeks, we've had deer in the middle of the day come from the timber going towards the residential, going west. It's crazy. It's hard to believe. I don't know. I've tried to see where they go, but I've not been able to get there in time to see where they were headed.
Maybe they fly.
They do move fast.
When does the season actually start?
I would second.
Second? Okay. Any questions or discussions?
Can we expand the area? No. When they're in my backyard, I know I'm in trouble.
They've been up in that area.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
My husband hit one on the way to work.
That's where they're going.
A couple years ago, the snowplow hit one right down by our place. And, I mean, it's not like it's going fast, but it hit it and killed it. So,
Got to stick it quick then.
So do I hear a motion to approve the request?
Hannah,
We did have a motion.
Oh, we already did? I didn't hear him.
You got a first
We do have a motion and a second. Okay, then I will roll call, please.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you.
Next, I need a motion to approve revised application for commercial restoration rehabilitation grant for 108 First Street East, submitted by Valerie Orchid in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Valerie has just purchased the property at 108 First Street East. It's the right against the dam there, the first building. Goodrich had an approved restoration rehab grant for windows. He did not put the windows in. Valerie bought the property, has since put the windows in. We did approve the original grant for the windows. He had a $2,800 quote. Valerie put in $3,600 or $3,700 worth of windows, but is doing another $15,000 of restoration in addition to that, to include awning, door, painting, and then, of course, the windows. So I wanted to make sure that, I called it a revised grant, so you know that the one was approved, not executed. This would update that. She would be eligible under our current guidelines for the full $5,000, because it's 33% or $5,000, whichever is greater. It's all on the front of the property that she's doing the work. And this will be home to the new microbrewery when they get set up here later this fall.
I'd make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve. All those, are you on a roll call on this?
yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried.
That's a really visible portion of town. It'll be nice to see that done.
Absolutely.
Next, we have a public hearing for the CDBG project. I need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Have a second and a first, or motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. I now need a motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing for the CDBG grant.
This is the second of the two required hearings for CDBG grant funding. I will tell you that the food pantry has turned in their preliminary, or their first bill for reimbursement. I have not received anything from the school yet, but I know that they are working on their mobile hotspots as well. Just as a reminder, we do have a total of $75,000 between the two projects that has been approved. $4,500 for the school and just over $70,000 for the food pantry, for their summer food program and for food pantry in general. So,
Have we received the grant money yet?
it's reimbursed as we expend it, so we got our first request for reimbursement from the food pantry. We'll send that back to IDED, and they'll send us a reimbursement based on when we send them the billing.
Sure.
So no, we haven't received it yet. Our first reimbursement check was tonight, and then, like I said, we'll send that in, and it takes about 3 weeks to get the money back from them.
Can you go through your 9 bullet points for me?
We do have to, yeah, through the, the information that's required in the public hearing is attached. These are questions that have to be answered for the CDBG program. This is due to the COVID-19 negative impacts. There's a need for general food resources as well as summer student meal programs and the mobile hotspots for distance learning or remote learning. The CDBG project will focus on backfilling these needs. The amount of funds will be $45.75 for mobile hotspots and service, $50,000 for food purchase, commodities, and $21,000 for the summer student meal program. 100% of this CDBG funding is identified for people of low to moderate income based on need, and location of the project will be in the Independence Community School District geographical area. There's no relocation of individuals that are anticipated to take place, and any comments concerning this program are to be directed to the City of Independence at City Hall. Community development and housing needs for low to moderate income people are not identified under this project being affected. And of course, we invite comments.
Any other questions? Then I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Hearing is closed. Next on the agenda is a motion to set July 27th, 2020 at 6:30 PM as the date of public hearing on an ordinance adopting International Code of Swimming Pool and Spas.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve July 27th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next, I need a motion to approve a resolution directing the clerk to publish notice of hearing for July 27th, 2020 at 6:30 PM on the adoption of the proposed code of ordinances for the city.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Then I need a roll call on this one.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried.
I have a question on this. Later on in the agenda, we have another resolution. That doesn't go, does that go in with this if that is passed?
What resolution are you referring to, Bob?
The one about the fireworks?
This is the code of ordinances that we're adopting, or in essence, readopting as updated.
Okay,
The fireworks enforcement policy is identified as a policy, not an ordinance.
Okay.
So it doesn't change the ordinance, that's dealing with the policy.
okay, I didn't want
Duplicate,
to, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Nope, but thank you.
okay.
Okay. Next, I have a resolution authorizing preparation and recording of transfers.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve a resolution for preparation and recording of transfers. A roll call, please.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is an fireworks enforcement policy. Let's speak on this, or?
Does this need to stay up?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, from Monday night, when we had the meeting, we had talked about fireworks. I know fireworks is a big thing in our community. I know a couple years ago, we set in place an ordinance to not allow them within our community. So, questions were brought up on enforcement of our fireworks and so forth. So, what I did is, well, what we did is we looked into, originally, I spoke with officers and said, okay, fireworks are going to be a big issue this year because of COVID-19, you need to pay attention to them. As last year, they were at a new time paying attention to them at that time because the previous year we allowed them. So after the 4th of July, we didn't have any citations written. After our meeting on Monday, it was brought up about officer discretion because that was the biggest issue that we had come across. So we looked into that. And come to find out, contrary to what I was taught and what I remember, is officers have the discretion to write a ticket or write a warning. But based on from talking to our city attorney is that if the council makes a directive, it oversees that and overdirects that so that the officers have to write a citation for fireworks if deemed necessary. So that's what this resolution is here for you guys to look at. If you guys feel that we need to write a citation for every single firework call that my officers can go out and see and find, then that's what we'll do, and this is the resolution that we'll put in place for that circumstance. So that's what is being brought to you this afternoon, is a resolution to say they will all be cited for violations if located.
Monday night, when we discussed this, I asked the question if we had written any citations, and the answer was no. Did we issue any written warnings to anyone?
Warnings are just verbal warnings, they're not all written warnings. The
I
only
thought they
written-
gave warnings for traffic tickets and stuff.
Correct, that's through Trax. That's, has a warning provision that they can use because it's all on the computer. Where citations are civil infractions, we don't have warnings for civil infractions, we just have citations for it.
What exactly do they have to find? Because it said in there that they can still, they don't think it would stand up in court. They
If
may
they-
still have discretion. So what would they have to find to make sure?
Somebody actually lighting them off, somebody telling them that they did, a witness that's willing to testify, yes, I saw them light them. If they know, for instance, that it's coming from a house and you go there and you talk to the people and they say, no, we have nothing to do with it, that's where we can fall back on our disorderly house ordinance. Okay, it's coming from your house, we get complaints from your house, then we cite the homeowner at that time.
Would there be visible debris maybe in the yard?
That could be as well. But,
Smoke.
yep. As long as we can locate that it came from a residence, yes. I said, the officers, it's all on the officer investigating it. I can't stand here and tell you that it would be this, 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 and this, because every circumstance is gonna be different. I mean, you might see smoke coming from a cluster of houses, but it might only be from one. You might see debris in the yard, and more than likely, if we don't see anybody out there, we're gonna say, okay, it came from this location. Now we go talk with them. So, but
Or if you have a witness that sees it
exactly. a
and
witness.
reports it to the police.
Yep. I watched somebody pull a trash can out in the middle of the street and light it on fire in the middle of the street with fireworks. Okay, where would it have come from? If I wouldn't have seen it, I would just see a trash can in the middle of the street that was blew up by fireworks. It all depends on the officer, what they see at the time.
And by approving this resolution, whatever, next year, the police officers will not have a choice. They will
Well,
cite,
approving this from this point on, because in December, New Year's is another time for fireworks. So it'd be from this point on.
okay.
One of the things, and I brought this up at our workshop, I do think that, personally, I like this because fireworks is a difficult thing, and I think if we pass the resolution, we need to have the backbone to tell the officers they need to do it, because it's not a popular rule to enforce. But on the other hand, I also think that we need to have some staggered fines on this too. I think we need,
And I
right
look-
now it's $250 or nothing.
And I looked into that. Based on the Iowa code, we can't go any less than 250.
So
It
that's,
says a minimum of 250. I looked into other communities that have fireworks ordinances in place. Iowa City is the same as ours, nothing less than, fine not less than $250. Knoxville says nothing more than 500. Waterloo is a misdemeanor punishable by any fine not less than 375. But based on the Iowa code from reading it, we can't go any less than $250 because it is in there, the way that is set up. So I mean, if we wanted to stagger it as 250 the first one, 400 the next one, 600 the next one, we
we're
could,
going the wrong direction.
but we can't go any less than that.
My feeling is, it's a waste of our time to pass an ordinance if we don't enforce it. And our citizens, from the complaints I've heard, are irate that we didn't enforce it. And it's embarrassing to tell them we didn't issue a single citation to anyone over the last 2 weeks.
We do have one now. I will say that, we do have one citation. I know it doesn't make up for the previous ones that we didn't get, but we can say we do have one citation that has been written for fireworks.
And I think one thing too, citizens need, I had somebody tell me, well, why would you not allow fireworks when you allow sales? And I said, that's not our choice. The state came in and said, we want revenue, so they're allowing the sale. That's not something we approved.
Yeah, we can't control the sale of fireworks. I mean, the only thing we can do is the permits to be able to set up the venues and stuff to sell them, but other than that, we don't have any control over them.
We can't deny those permits, can we?
No, we have a little bit of control over where in the city we can allow them to be set up, but that's it. We have to permit them someplace in the city or make a provision for them. And so we've followed pretty much the same guidelines as everybody else in the state, putting them in a commercial or industrial area.
The only way we would have any grounds to deny them, the permits come through my office, and I could deny them if, like, this year they did something that was in violation of their permit. I could tell them next year, well, you can't have one because you violated, or I could take it away from them on the spot if they were violating. And in that case, then they would also probably request a hearing with you guys to determine if they get to get it back or not have it in the future. But initially, I would have to grant them their permit.
One thing with this I know when we talked about this at the workshop, and I find this a little hard to believe, but people think that we don't have an ordinance on fireworks, which, again, I see some of the mix-up. We had two different laws since it came into effect, but can we ask these places to throw in the bag with their fireworks at our ordinance? I mean, I suppose we can't tell them, but it'd be nice if they would just, okay, can they put that in and say you can't fire that off in Independence, within city limits?
I think we can request it. I don't think there's a way to enforce it. They have to put something like that in, but we can request it if we provide them copies of the ordinance or a fact sheet, maybe that's just an abbreviated version even that sends that message.
I know,
Didn't we post those at the fireworks
yes, we have.
last year?
Yep. And I know
Did we do it this year or not?
I did not get out to get that done this year, no. I know I had spoken with some of my officers when I had a conversation after the 4th of July when no fireworks were written. I actually sent a message to Lau, who was working on Sunday, because I thought I was perfectly clear on making sure this was enforced. And when he told me that there wasn't any fireworks citations that were written, I had him put something out to the officers to make sure that they enforced this. I had a couple of officers that brought up different ideas about putting maybe a sign out somewhere on 150 or on close to where the tents are at, saying, hey, no fireworks are allowed to be lit off in the city of Independence. So we have a department meeting tomorrow. We're going to discuss this and some other things. And I'm going to see if we can get any brainstormed ideas so that we can maybe have something to help out for next year.
I think it's important to let them know too, if they're caught, this is
Correct.
what you could get it.
Right. So something on a banner that says some kind of lighting of fireworks in the city, according to the city of Independence, is a $250 fine, a minimum of. So something that in a banner that you could, hey, we stick it out off of Highway 50 by Fairway or close to Walmart or wherever it is, so that way, hey, people can actually see it. I know we always post it on the internet, on Facebook, in the newspapers, but not everybody sees it, so.
One thing I think on this too, we need to tread very lightly because we're dealing with an area, officer discretion, and I don't want to see us, every time we disagree, to come back and say we're going to tell our officers they have to do something, because when you're out there at 1 a.m. in the morning or 10 a.m. in the morning, there's a lot of circumstances that you got to take into consideration, and it's easy to sit in a nice, safe environment and say, why didn't you do this? Well, we weren't there, and there's a reason for officer discretion. I favor this because this is an unpopular deal, and I think we need, as a council, we either need to support it or we can't have citizens complaining and then have us say, well, it's not our fault, it's the police. Well, we have an opportunity to take care of the problem, and then if those people that don't want it enforced want to call us, they can.
We have enforcement on ordinances that might only be grass clippings in their yard, because it only affects really them, and then rodents and stuff, maybe their neighbors. Where something like this affects multiple people, not just their neighbors. It's down the block, it's half a mile away, depending on what kind of fireworks they're shooting off. So on something like this is something that affects pretty much the whole community. So I know, sorry, I'm bumping your computer screen. Al talked to me about something fireworks, was it Monday? No, Sunday.
Sunday.
We had no call for service for it. It wasn't reported to us at all. So unless my officers were driving through the area, we would never have known that it happened. So, I mean, there'll be times that people don't even report it to us. If we come across it, great, but if we don't hear it, I can guarantee you out of all the calls for service we had, there's probably twice as many that actually happened that nobody reported. So,
So the two things, I think, just so we're on the same, speaking the same language, when we say enforcing the ordinance, the officers will tell us that using their discretion to give a warning instead of a citation is enforcement. It's not the enforcement that you as council have expressed a desire for, and that's why this resolution is significant, because we're saying that your use of enforcement will now match the council's definition of enforcement on this topic. And I think that's extremely important.
Out of the-
The other issue that I would mention to everybody is when there's fireworks, to Dustin's point, we need those calls for service, because it is something that's all over the community, it's everywhere. We have officers out there, but let's help the officers out and make their job a little more practical if we let the people know, hey, it's in this neighborhood or it's in this area. I think that's significant.
I think there was a problem, there was a lot of citizen dissatisfaction and knowing nothing was gonna happen, that they didn't report it. And they figured, well, it's 4th of July, and they kinda sucked it up, but they like to complain about it anyway. The other thing is, if we're not issuing written warnings, if we are warning them, is there any record made of that? So if you had to go back and get called back to them, is anything happening?
our calls for service that we have printed out. I have all the calls for service, because there's some that have every information, anything we need in there, and then some that don't. And that might be the officer not telling them who they were speaking with, or it might not be the dispatcher putting it in, depending on if the dispatcher was busy. I can't say one way or the other. The only thing is, I printed them all off so that tomorrow, when we have our department meeting, we can go through them and say, okay, who were you out with? And if there's anything I see of an issue, we can make sure it's in there. But yes, every call for service that an officer goes out to a location will have an address of where they were at.
I think all of us are sensitive to the officer discretion issue
Oh, yeah.
on anything. But this happens twice a year.
Right.
And I think we need to put some teeth in it, or our ordinance is worthless.
And by doing this, we have some skin in the game too. They can say, if we're up to me, I may warn you, but based on the ordinance passed by our city council, if you have a question about it, here's your city council person.
I mean,
I'd just like to point out for the council and the public that with the way that we wrote this, with the ability for the officer not to write a ticket if there's insufficient evidence to prove the case, that it's important for the council to realize officers may still need to issue warnings from time to time to keep from wasting their time going to court on cases they can't prove. And it's also important for the public to know that if they really care and they want people cited and they want it to stop, they might have to be willing to
Call it in.
testify and call it in and be very specific. So if someone just calls in with a very vague response and they're not willing to give their names or whatnot, the person may end up with a warning. And I think the council and the public should be aware of that possibility.
Good point.
It's good points.
So do we have a motion and second on this?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. You want a roll call, please?
Yes, please. Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf.
Yes.
Thank you, council. I think that's a good decision, and glad we did that tonight. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
chief.
Next is a motion to approve a resolution to assess property owners for Chapter 52 mowing, failure to comply.
So moved.
Second,
Any other discussion?
Yeah, on this, I know of one property that's been mowed twice and it hasn't come up yet for a fee. I'm wondering about that.
It depends on when they get turned in to us to get it in here, and then we also have to provide a notice to the property owner. So before it comes up to you to assess, this is kind of
But if it's been mowed twice, you should have gotten the first one.
They may have paid it, though.
they may have paid it.
Sometimes people pay them. Otherwise, we will send them a notice that is mowed and bill them, and then we give them 30 days to pay that before it will ever come to you guys. So if they paid in that time, it's not going to come to you because they already paid their bill to us. This is just if they don't pay us.
Kind of doubting that happened. It's a house that nobody's lived in for a couple years and
Well, if it's owned by a bank or an institution, they
they pay right up.
may pay it.
Okay.
This is really the last straw. This is the point where it goes on to their tax rolls. So there's a lot of things that have transpired before it ever gets to this point.
Okay.
If you have a specific property, let us know. We'll look into it, but
Okay.
Yeah, we track everything, everyone that was mowed that they've told us at City Hall to bill for. So if we've billed for it, we would have it on our records.
So we do have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is the airport building number 2 lease.
this is a request from Ms. Connell to extend her current lease on building number 2 at the airport for an additional 90 days. She's also asked for an option for 90 days after that. I guess my recommendation would be the 90 days, and then if it's necessary to revisit it at that time. But that was the formal request that's in the letter attached to the agenda item.
I'll make a motion.
Do we also need to put in this motion as far as the amount, since the original cost for that building was $350, and in honor of Jim's years of service, they lowered it to $175? Or do we keep the $175 for this 90 days? You might want to put that in.
I'd keep the
Put that in
175
your
for the
motion.
first 90 days and look at going up to what it should have been the second 90 days if they request it.
Okay, so you made the motion.
Yes.
So a
I
motion
just
to,
wanna- And we're talking about prorated, 175 a month, because we're talking about 90-day periods. I just want that to be clear for the
Oh.
motion.
Yeah, it's,
175
that's
a
what she
month.
was paying now is 175.
So she'll have to pay it 3 times to keep the 90 days.
Right. In conversation, she would likely pay the 90 days upfront, all at one time, but it would be at the 175 per month rate. And that would be consistent with her request.
And if she vacates it prior to that 90 days, she would get it prorated back.
Right, right.
And I guess for City Hall's point of view, for billing and licensing module, it only allows us to bill per month. So we would ask that she just pay per month, if that was possible, because that's how our system's set up. And if we get an overpayment, it sets us out of balance, and we have some issues with the software. We have to call and have support, do a bunch of entries to try to clear it up in our cash reports for us as well.
Okay, I had a motion. Did we have a second?
No.
I'll second.
Okay. And we want a roll call on this, please?
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next is a motion to approve option number 1 with Meter Tech Solutions for the installation of water meters and remote read modules.
This is a proposal that Mark has been working on. He's had 2 quotes for this service, one through Ferguson, one through Badger Meter. Badger is the meter brand that he's been moving the city to for the last few years, so using Badger to install them makes the most sense. Ferguson would only install Neptune meters, which are ones that we're not using any longer. The price is very close to identical, so there's not a price difference on this. They showed option 1 and option 2. They're a slightly different meter. One's ultrasonic, one's mechanical. For residential purposes, Mark is recommending the mechanical. It's a lower flow rate, a lower volume. The mechanical is a tried and true water meter that has served us well. The ultrasonic is newer technology. He's nervous about whether or not it would be as consistent on the low flow. For commercial and larger, 1-inch and larger meters, they work great, but again, that's his recommendation. It does include the wire as well as the installation. So option 1 and option 2, it's mostly the style of meter more than pricing.
I thought we tabled this, or we're gonna table this for this year because of the loss of revenue through COVID and things like that.
We had talked about pushing this back as far as the installation. Our guys are not going in or have not been going into residents.
Right.
That doesn't mean that we have to start this right away. This is something that Mark's worked on, and before he retired, we wanted to bring it up to you.
We did put this in the capital plan, right?
It is in the capital plan. We do have money set aside in the water department CDs, if you will. This is a bigger ticket item than what was put in there. We had blocked for 3 years to do this. This is at one lump sum. So your grand total with the water modules and the remote read modules, both components, you'll be at $905,000 for the total project. That would put us in line with where Inditel is with their remote read electric meters, a comparable time frame.
Is that gonna force us to raise the water rates?
It doesn't force us to raise them, it just changes the timing of it. So our water rates have to be restudied for the SRE, or SRF grant, loan program, for the Highway 150 project. This is not what's going to drive your water rates. It'll be based on your capital improvements for primarily your water projects and sewer projects.
Yeah.
Without the COVID, would this have been quite a bit cheaper with our guys doing it?
I don't know about quite a bit cheaper. It's about a 3-year project for us. They can do about 3 a day when they can get in. The challenge is a lot of people that are not home during the day, our guys don't work nights and weekends. These folks can. And in fact, do work nights and weekends when people are around. So it makes it much quicker. They come in with a larger workforce than what we do. We have 2 people that can work on it. We always send 2 people out to a residence, so they're not, 1 person on site. Just much slower.
Will they be starting to do this soon?
When we give them the go-ahead to do it, COVID is going to change a lot of our protocols, what we do and don't do, what people are comfortable with. So that's
So if
something.
our city guys can't do it, can these guys actually go in the homes and do it?
Well, when we get to that point that we're putting people back into homes, yes. I mean, from that standpoint, whether it be a city worker or.
Right now, they wouldn't be able to.
That's a conversation we have to have with them as far as the timing on this. This is just a matter of whether or not they come in with a workforce to do it quicker, or if we do it over, like I said, 3 years. There's 2,600 modules left to put in at 3 a day. The math doesn't work out to do it very quickly.
Would this lock us in if, say, we said we don't want them starting for another 3 months or something? I mean, would this lock us into a price then?
Right, yes. And then we have to work with them. The COVID issue is going to be something that we have to work through no matter how we're going to do this. That's a wild card that's out there that has to be addressed whenever we're going to do it. And we want to do it to be respectful to the homeowners as well as the people going in and doing the work. So,
It's pretty much going in everybody's basements, isn't it?
yes, primarily basements. All of the water meters are inside, so it is going into homes consistently citywide.
I think this is one of those projects that we know it needs to be done, and it's one of those, I think we're gonna have to bite the bullet and get it done.
Well,
With Inditel's technology, they're really pushing for it, so.
the only payback that I can offer you is the meter reading contract that we have. And that is probably a 10-year payback, realistically, as far as putting it out there. Now, there is some savings on water loss. This is supposed to read that, pick it up quicker, so we don't have as much water loss if somebody's got a leaky toilet or a leaky faucet.
Do
But-
you have an average age of water meters in town? You know, I mean, I know some of the new developments will have newer ones, but is there kind of a, I mean, because there's a certain amount of time you have to replace everything.
Right.
You know,
We're,
I'm just curious to see what our infrastructure is there from an average perspective. Just
I
curious.
don't have an average. We did find one a couple months ago that was more than 20 years old, which is very, very old for a water meter. But I don't have an average for you on.
Just curious.
I bet mine's older than that.
So, well, there are some that are much older than that, which is surprising, but
So, I mean, with newer meters, there could be some cost savings just because of newer technology.
right.
Some houses might be easier to go into if they have an access from outside right to a basement or something where they don't actually go into the actual home too.
Those are few and far between
But, yeah.
anymore.
Well, like to a garage or, I don't know, something.
What's the expected life of them meters?
I don't know that.
Would this catch homes where I think like we had out here by Pizza Hut where we had two houses running off the same meter? Or would they just change the one meter that was existing, probably?
Yeah, I'd like to think we would catch more of that, but I think that would be optimistic to think that that would, more than changing the meters. And on that one, it was one service line that was teed off. There was actually 2 meters there,
Oh, okay.
but one service line. And that's just as bad, and maybe in some cases, like in that one, that's actually worse. But there's still some of that exists. It's not as rampant as what it has been, but that will still exist, and I'm not sure this is the way to catch that.
Okay.
How does this automated system address homeowners that have the accessory meters for watering their yards and that type of thing that are currently read manually?
The short answer is, instead of the inexpensive second meter, the second meter is significantly more expensive because you have to have the meter and the remote read module that goes with it. So it just makes that second meter more expensive.
How significantly more expensive?
Well, the meters are just, I think $72, and the remote read module is $105. So,
Wouldn't be,
Couple
a-
$100.
yeah, I mean, we asked the homeowner for the second meter to buy the meter. In this case, they're buying the meter and the module for remote read. So that's the biggest difference there. And I don't remember, Mike, do you have that second meter?
Yeah.
It was a pretty nominal fee that we were.
$35.
How much?
It was $35.
Okay.
I've
So
got
it would be
3.
5 times.
Yeah.
I have 3.
You have 3 of them?
You just have to carry
My
one.
wife is a gardener.
Better buy a longer hose.
Yeah.
I was just
So-
thinking if we could take them out to the treatment plant and have them read them out there.
That's right.
They
So-
do make a difference, though, in the summertime. I've had, for years, I've used that second meter with the sewer cost.
Right.
Makes a big difference. But with climate change, I haven't had to use it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So did we get a motion and
I'll
second on
make
this?
the motion that we
Second,
approve option 1.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Callahan,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes,
O'Loughlin,
Would this be option one or option two?
Option one, the mechanical meter.
Okay, and the total cost for this will be 905,000 roughly?
Because it's based on actual numbers, that would be Mark's estimate for the modules and the
Meter
meters.
installation.
And the installations. 904,500, I think, is the number that Mark estimated.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Last item on the agenda is motion to approve a professional service agreement with Levi Architect for roof replacement and tuck pointing project on the City Hall.
This is just the professional services agreement. By state code, we're required to have an engineer or architect design the plans and specs that go out for either quotes, competitive quotes, or bids, whichever way we look at it. The difference between a quote and a bid by state code is the anticipated cost. So before we get into whether it be a bid or a quote, we still have to design the improvements. Currently, the roof is leaking. We have significant issues there, and we still have bricks falling off of the parapet wall on the original part of the building. It's about a third of what we have here for building space.
I don't understand why we can't just get a contractor, have him give us an estimate on the roof and the tuck pointing, and avoid the significant cost of this.
We do have that estimate. We did get it for budgetary purposes. It drove it well beyond what I can do in going out and getting the work done.
Sure.
And that was both tuck pointing and the roof. We've looked at both. We have numbers for both. The budget numbers that we have are 70,000 for each. I think we can do it for less than that, but still, that's well over what we're allowed to do.
And based on that, what would our cost for the architect be then?
Well, he's got a not to exceed price in here of, I believe it's 10,000. Excuse me, 12,400.
And then the whole project cost, I see 14, that shows that, the number that kind of knocks your socks off. The 120,000.
Oh, yeah, the estimated cost for the tuck pointing and the roof is in that $120,000 range, yes.
So this engineering would be above
Yes,
that.
correct,
So we're looking at a total cost of about 135,000.
correct. And this is in the capital improvement plan. We knew we were running into this. We've been poking along here with our roof as long as we can.
Did we allocate enough in the CIP for this?
Yes. Well, based on what we got for quotes on both the roof and the tuck pointing from the contractors to know where we're going to end up, yes, we do. Bids are going to drive that, or the quotes, whatever the case might be, but we have enough in there to cover what this shows.
Aren't 5-gallon buckets cheaper?
It's the mattresses you need out there to catch the bricks when they.
That's right.
Yeah,
I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the professional service agreement. Roll call,
I
please.
think I was hit by a brick out there. That's our level of coverage.
Roll call, please.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Scharf,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan,
Yes.
I
Thank
don't know
you.
why
Motion
Carl
is-
was looking at me skeptical about.
Motion
being
is
hit by a
carried.
brick.
When's our target date to start this?
with it.
I'm sorry?
When's our target date to get this started?
We have to get the plans taken care of, which should not be a long time frame. Our goal is to have this done this fall. The tuck pointing can happen later into the fall than what the roof can.
Yeah.
We are looking at breaking it into two separate projects because of the bid threshold versus the competitive quote. But this agreement takes care of both projects, if you will.
Okay, staff. Dustin, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Still want to just shut this thing. Couple things. With over the weekend, with the hailstorm stuff that we had through town, I have 4 squads that have hail damage to it. I don't know about the other city vehicles enough, but I can tell you right now, I have 4 squads that do have a decent amount of hail damage to them that we're going to be working through the process with that. My squad, the one I drive, was even parked at my house and it had hail damage on it. So, but the ones that were out at the PD at the time, definitely, it's all over the place. Over the last week, we've had 3 different vicious animal calls. Yep, 2 of them have been cited. The other one was just the kid, somebody was playing with the dog and got nipped from the dog. That one we don't consider as vicious. It was just a incident. But the other ones, they were cited. So we will have a couple of those cases that we'll be going through. So Officer Bentley and I had a call on one of them, and he's learning how to do them right away, right out the bat. So other than that, everybody else is healthy and to work as we know. So we'll see how things go this next couple weeks. So now that the fireworks are over, can't be shot off anymore. We'll see if we get any more that people do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Blake, did you have anything from the fire department? Nothing for us. Okay. You didn't even stand up for that. I just heard the voice. Was there any committee meeting reports? Any of them that you guys are on?
I had called the senior center and they're not open, and the lady I got a hold of didn't know too much about it, but there's no projected date to be open, but it hasn't also been out there that they're not going to either, so.
Okay. Anybody
I
else?
did send out a email to everybody on a Wapsipinicon watershed update on some of the projects that they've got going, so it was on your emails, in case you're interested.
Good.
When'd you do that, John?
Yeah,
What, a week or 2 ago?
I didn't get it either.
I didn't either.
Oh,
I want some transparency
resend
out
it.
of you, John.
Maybe a lot of people at Advance Auto got it.
Okay, any council members?
I had a question, Al, would maybe, you'd send out the weekly update with the feral cat thing, maybe if you wanted to explain that?
Yes, we are working to implement a trap, neuter, release program in 3 areas in town where we have the largest populations of feral cats. And we do have a negotiated price with Pipestone. Pipestone is working with their attorney to make sure that everything on their end is okay. Todd thought this morning we might have this operational as early as next week. We do have 2 live traps that we can use. We have a budget of, that will support up to 50 animals per year. It's coming out of our nuisance abatement funds, and that's about as much as I think we dare put into it in any one year, but to see how that works. We can't remove the feral cats from the neighborhoods because they'll just backfill with other cats. So by trapping, neutering, and replacing, then they're not breeding, we're not having a growing population, and that's been the most effective program that's out there through Iowa State University and about anybody else that you talk to about dealing
well, they
with
know
feral
they're not
cats.
catching the same cat twice.
Well, they clip the ears, so they know which ones have already been.
Which
In-
they say doesn't work all that well in states like Iowa because of frost bites.
Yeah, I don't have a better solution, short of, like I said, trying to eliminate stray cats, but
There's been quite a few communities that have done this with success.
They do in warmer climates, but
Well, this
Well,
is in Iowa.
yeah, there's several communities in Iowa that are using this. Again, just trying to give it a try, or, we have to start someplace. But again, hopefully by next week, we'll get started on it and see where it goes.
So I shouldn't get too many emails about the cats frolicking anymore.
Just so
That's
proud.
not my message. We did get a report this morning of one section of town that had a significant number of deceased cats, so
What?
I'm not sure if that's one of our feral cat areas or not, but Todd was checking up on that, and I hadn't heard back from him today. But we are, I mean, there's only 2 days that they're doing surgery, so we are very focused on which days the traps go out and, you know, how many we could take at a time. And again, 50 is our cap for any given year right now, so.
I think it's a good step.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I've been trying to explore for more grants and so forth. A friend of mine's a grant writer through the state, and so we've been searching for, trying to extend a trail or at least get something up the hill from the leaf and tree dump where families with strollers and stuff are not walking on the traveled portion of the road, because, I mean, from our area down there, there's a significant number of houses, both in the addition I'm in and the addition you're in, and some of them want to go up and use the parks and so forth, and it's really difficult and dangerous at times. So I've been trying to do that, and also trying to solicit from some of the wealthier people in the country and through letters and emails and stuff. Because it's something that we'd really, it would be beneficial to the whole community to get that done. It's dangerous.
Can we do the engineering on that to, so if, say, they keep talking about all this stimulus money maybe, that if something came up, we'd be ready to do it? I mean, I don't know how much engineering would take, say, from the leaf dump up to Bland Boulevard.
Sure.
But at least we'd know what we need, and as opposed to, I mean, we seem to not be able to decide for sure even what side of the road we want to be on.
I would be happy to see both sides because the amount of traffic. When you have 40,000 vehicles going south on that road, that tells you that you probably, in order for the citizens to use it, you're probably going to need both sides. At least to the, what I call the choke point where you get to Lover's Lane Road. You know, then you could have one that came from, for example, the west side across to the east side, and then the east side would allow for conveyance all the way south.
We can bring you a professional services agreement at the next meeting.
I
That'd be
just
great.
think if we're ready,
Yeah, because we basically know at the top there, Al, don't we, from when we stopped at that guy's yard?
We know what has to happen at the Bland and Sixth intersection.
Right.
And that's not been engineered, it's
No.
been schematically designed.
Right.
But, I mean, that's going to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we can plug stuff into that.
A retaining wall is going to be a pretty expensive proposition, which would be required on the west side there for the initial, I don't remember, 120 feet or something, but, no, we'll bring you a professional services agreement to consider for that.
Add a couple things. The bridge work out there, are there extra fees for what they're doing out there, or is that included in the fee that we had?
No, there's no extra fee. That's them fixing issues that they
Okay,
had from their original construction. That's part of the punch list that they're
that's what I
working.
thought, but I want to tell people that for sure if I didn't know.
Right.
And then another thing about the junked houses that we've acquired, when are we going to start acting on those and getting them down or taken care of?
Todd is working on the couple that we have acquired. We've got more that we are working to acquire, so there's more coming. The most notable one is the one up on the north there. Trying to think, is that on First? First Avenue Northeast. That one, the fire department is going to help, or has
Burn
talked
down.
about doing a controlled burn-on. So it's just a matter of working
Did we
through
acquire
that.
the one up by Sambury Hill? Yes. If I lived next to that, I'd be calling the city every day saying, when are you going to do something with that?
I know Cofelds, when they moved out of that, the bank was trying to repossess that from them, but I don't know where that went to. And then I don't know what the city did. I know that they owned the property, the house there, and then they also owned the property next to it that had a camper on it. That camper's gone. Other than that, I am not aware of what's going on with it at this time.
And Todd is working on the Butler house, the Butler property. And that's another one that has to be, well, the question is whether or not that one can be saved or if it has to be torn down. It looks tough, but the structure is basically sound, and so he was working on whether or not that has to come down. And that's a fairly large house.
And then haven't we had the one for a year over in the southwest part of town on 7th Avenue?
There's one over there that
With the boat and the car that we were gonna get rid of and.
Todd's working on that. We already have an interested party next door to that.
Right.
And part of the deal is, when we get through, working through that, they'll actually tear down the house and do the demolition if we do this right. So it's going through that paperwork to get that done so we can transfer that.
And are there two out there gonna be close to being something we can do?
Not anything in the foreseeable future. We've got a 6-month window to use 657A. The only real option we have is if there's a bank involved, if we can work with a lender. There's been discussion of a lender. We haven't been able to verify that yet, but we're working on trying to find a way to expedite that. But otherwise, it's a 6-month process to get to the 657A program, and then that takes months to do once you get it into that system. But I can't initiate that for 6 months from when we deemed it as uninhabitable.
Those are the two by Pizza Hut?
Yes.
They just make the town look really bad, those houses that we've got, like a half a dozen of them that.
We don't want 47 of them like Old Wine.
Oh, I know,
Take a few at a time.
but we're getting them.
If we do, we'll have a discussion with you and the city attorney.
You're right.
Yeah.
I can get you as many as you want.
I'm beginning to
You're,
think that.
you're too willing. Anyone else? Gina, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Al?
I have a couple of things. Most importantly, with the hail that came through the end of last week, there are people soliciting for roof inspections. They have not been vetted through City Hall at this point, and I'm not aware of any peddlers or solicitor permits that have been issued. So if the public's listening, please pay special attention to that. We're willing to work with anybody to help address the public's needs, but we just soon know who they are, and there's a process for that.
Just remember, folks, if they inspect your roofs, take the ladder away, charge them a fee to come back down the ladder.
It's
you know-
double if they don't have a permit.
Right.
Do you know where Malik Theater's situation is at this point at all? Have we got an update, or?
And
I
Malik
know they've been
has,
doing some work, trying to get funding and stuff, but,
yeah, the Malik is going to have the marquee, the second side of the marquee addressed here shortly. Signs and More is doing work there. They don't have enough money to do the roof yet, although they did get a very sizable donation. And so they're working toward the roof. Of course, their fundraising efforts with the COVID pandemic is very slow, very difficult, but Todd is working with them and has been in touch with them, I won't say weekly, but as recently as last week.
I know they're still taking anybody that turns in their bottles, and over at the Redemption Center, cans and bottles, they can donate their fees to the Malik Theater. That's slow moving and not a large amount of money, but at least it keeps coming in for them. So, anyone else? Hearing nothing, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Let's go home.
All those in favor say aye.